He called 911 and whispered, "I think my wife is dead." But when police arrived, she was still warm. No blood, no struggle, no sign anyone else had been there. And yet, something in that house felt deeply wrong, because the only witness kept changing his story. In a quiet American suburb, a late-night emergency call sets off a chain of events that leaves investigators questioning everything they think they know about truth, memory, and guilt. A husband reports finding his wife unresponsive, but the scene doesn't match his story. There are no clear signs of violence, no forced entry, no obvious motive. As detectives begin to peel back the layers of this seemingly simple case, they uncover subtle inconsistencies, strange behavior, and a timeline that refuses to stay straight. Friends describe a loving couple. Neighbors recall nothing unusual, yet something about that night feels staged. The deeper investigators dig, the more the story shifts. Because sometimes the most shocking crimes aren't the ones that look violent. They're the ones that look almost perfect. The call came in just before midnight. It wasn't loud, it wasn't frantic. If anything, it was too calm. "I think my wife is dead," the man said. A pause followed, not the kind filled with panic, the kind filled with thought, like he was choosing his words carefully. Dispatch asked if she was breathing. Another pause. "I don't think so." That was the moment the operator flagged the call, because something didn't add up. Officers arrived within 6 minutes. The house sat quietly at the end of a cul-de-sac. Lights on, curtains drawn. No movement inside. No neighbors outside. Just stillness. The kind that settles over something already finished. The front door was unlocked. That alone wasn't unusual, but it should have been. Inside, the air felt warm, not comforting, heavy. Like the house had been holding its... They found him in the living room, standing, not kneeling, not beside her, just standing. His name was Robert Hale, 68 years old, retired accountant. Clean clothes, no visible distress, but his hands, they were shaking, just slightly. "She's in there," he said, pointing toward the bedroom. No rush in his voice, no urgency. That didn't sit right. The officers moved quickly, down the hallway, into the bedroom. And that's when everything changed. She was lying on the bed, perfectly still, no signs of struggle, no blood, no overturned furniture, just a woman who looked like she had gone to sleep and never woke up. But something didn't add up. Detective Laura Bennett arrived shortly after. 20 years in homicide. She knew what death looked like. And this didn't fit. The body was still warm. Too warm. Time of death, she asked. The responding officer shook his head. Recent. Bennett stepped closer, carefully, observing. The woman's name was Susan Hale, 65, retired nurse, no known medical conditions. That was the first red flag, because people don't just stop. Not like this. Bennett turned to Robert. "When did you find her?" He hesitated, just for a second. "Around 11, he said. "And when did you last see her alive?" Another pause. "Earlier tonight." That wasn't an answer. Bennett noticed it immediately. "What time?" "I don't remember exactly." That's when the room shifted, because something didn't add up. The autopsy would confirm it, but Bennett already knew. This wasn't natural. And then came the first twist. There were no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints besides theirs, no signs of anyone else. Which meant one thing: whoever did this was already inside. And suddenly, Robert wasn't just the caller. He was the only suspect. But that wasn't the worst part, because as the investigation deepened, his story started to change. At first, he said he found her in bed. Then, during a second interview, he said she was on the floor. That contradiction didn't slip by. Bennett leaned in. "You moved her?" Robert looked confused, then defensive. "No, I don't think so." "You don't think so?" That answer echoed. "Because how do you not remember that? Unless something else is going on, or you're hiding something." But the second twist changed everything. The toxicology report came back. Cause of death, suffocation, but not manual, not violent, chemical, a sedative, strong, precise. The kind that doesn't just appear, the kind that's administered. And then came something even stranger, a trace of the same sedative in Robert's bloodstream. That didn't make sense. Why would a killer drug himself? Unless he wasn't supposed to survive. That theory opened a new door. Was this a murder-suicide attempt? Or something that went wrong? Bennett dug deeper. Medical records, prescriptions, pharmacy logs, and that's when she found it. Susan had access to medication, strong medication, from her years as a nurse, some of it unaccounted for. Now the story shifted again. Was Susan the one in control? Was this planned? Or did something happen between them? Neighbors were interviewed. Most said the same thing. They were quiet, kept to themselves, seemed happy. But one neighbor hesitated. "Not always," she said. Bennett leaned forward. "What do you mean?" The neighbor took a breath. "I heard arguing a few nights ago." That changed the tone. Because now there was conflict. And where there's conflict, there's motive. But the final twist came from something small, almost invisible, a digital clock. In the bedroom, it had been unplugged. At exactly 10:14 p.m., Bennett stared at it. Because that wasn't random, that was deliberate. And it didn't match Robert's timeline. "I panicked," he said. That word hung heavy, because panic leads to mistakes, and mistakes leave evidence. "You moved her," Bennett said. He nodded. "And the note?" Another pause. I didn't know what else to say. That was the moment everything settled. Not clean, not perfect, but real. Robert Hale was charged with second-degree murder. The court ruled it was assisted, but mishandled. Negligence, panic, failure, not pure intent, but not innocence either. He was sentenced. And the house, it stayed empty. Neighbors moved on, but not completely. Because sometimes, late at night, people say they still see the light in that bedroom. And for a moment, it feels like time stopped there at 10:14 p.m., right before everything changed. Because the truth is, the most shocking murders aren't always filled with violence. Sometimes they're filled with silence. and one decision you can never take back.